The distress signal came through at 3 in the morning ship time. Was awake, as he always was at that hour. Sleep did not come easy to men like him. He sat in the cargo bay, cleaning his boots, when the alarm cut through the silence of the freighter. He walked to the bridge without hurrying. Captain was already there, staring at the screen with tired eyes. Stood beside him, her medic bag hanging from her shoulder. She never went anywhere without it. Colonial Transport said, "The Morning Star signal is weak. They stopped responding 10 minutes ago." Looked at the coordinates. Deep space, far from any patrol routes, a bad place to be in trouble. "Could be pirates," he said. "Could be," agreed. "Could also be engine failure, families on that ship, children." The word hung in the air, said nothing. He walked to the weapons locker and pulled out his gear. They found the Morning Star 2 hours later, or what was left of it. The ship hung dead in the void. Great holes had been torn through the hull, metal bent outward like flower petals, frozen in the moment of violence. No lights, no power, no movement. Made a small sound, gripped the controls until his knuckles went white. Said quietly, he recognized the damage pattern. The reptilian warlords did not simply attack ships, they opened them like cans of meat. "We should go," the pilot, a young man named, said. His voice shook. "If they are still nearby." "They're not," said. "They hit fast and they leave fast. This happened hours ago." He was already walking toward the airlock. "I'm going over." Grabbed her bag. "I'm coming with you." Looked at her. She was small, barely reaching his shoulder. Her hands were soft, made for healing, not fighting, but her eyes were steady. "Stay behind me," he said. The inside of the Morning Star was worse than the outside. Bodies floated in the corridors. Men, women, some of them still reaching for loved ones they could not save. The cold of space had preserved them perfectly. They looked like they were sleeping. Checked each one. Her face was pale, but her hands did not shake. She was stronger than she looked. Most people had learned, until they weren't. "No survivors," she said after the third corridor. Her voice was flat, professional, but could see the pain in her eyes. They moved deeper into the ship. The cargo holds were empty. They had taken everything of value: supplies, technology, people. The ones who died were the lucky ones. The ones who were taken would spend the rest of their short lives as slaves in mining colonies. Was about to call the search when he heard it. A sound so small he almost missed it. A breath. A tiny, terrified breath. He held up his hand, froze. The sound came from beneath a pile of cargo containers, moved toward it slowly. He had seen traps before. Wounded animals were dangerous. Wounded people were worse. But this was not a trap. She was curled in a ball beneath her mother's body. The woman had died protecting her child, using her own flesh as a shield against the cold and the violence. The girl could not have been more than 7 years old. Her eyes were open but empty. She did not react when knelt beside her. In her arms she clutched a stuffed rabbit. One of its ears was torn. She held it like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Moved forward but stopped her with a look. He had seen this before, in war zones, in refugee camps, children who had seen too much. If you moved too fast, you broke something inside them that could never be fixed. He sat down on the cold metal floor, not too close, not too far, and he waited. The girl did not move, did not speak, but after a long moment her eyes shifted. She looked at him, really looked at him. Did not smile. He did not offer comfort. He simply met her gaze and let her see that he was not a threat, that he was not going to hurt her, that he was not going to leave. Minutes passed, or maybe hours, did not count. Then the girl moved, slowly, painfully. She crawled out from beneath her mother's body and sat in front of him. She did not reach for him, but she did not run away. That was enough. Took off his jacket. It was thick and warm, designed for the cold of cargo holds. He held it out to her. She looked at it for a long moment. Then she took it, wrapping it around her small shoulders. said quietly, "Get the stretcher." They brought the girl back to the Wanderer. She did not speak. She did not cry. She simply sat where they put her, holding her rabbit, staring at nothing. The crew gathered in the common room, looked tired, looked scared. The others whispered among themselves. "We need to report this," said. "Contact the nearest station. They'll take the girl, find her family." "Her family is dead," said. "I checked the passenger manifest. She was traveling with her mother, no father listed, no other relatives." Then the station authorities. "The nearest station is Helix 4, voice was flat, controlled." Silence fell over the room. Everyone knew what that meant. Helix 4 was a trading post, and they traded in everything, including children. "We can't just keep her," said. "We're a cargo ship. We don't have the supplies, the space. She stays." Everyone turned to look at. He stood in the corner, arms crossed, face unreadable. But there was something in his voice that made the others go quiet, something that said this was not a discussion. Began. "She stays with us," looked at the captain. "Until we find somewhere safe, somewhere real, she stays." Held his gaze for a long moment. He had known for 3 years. He had seen him work without complaint, fight without hesitation, but he had never heard him ask for anything. This was not asking, this was telling. "All right," said finally, "she stays." Nodded once, then he walked out of the room. He found the girl in the medical bay, had given her a blanket and a cup of warm soup. She had not touched either. She just sat there, small and broken, lost in a world that had taken everything from her. Sat down across from her. He did not speak. He simply pulled out a small knife and a piece of scrap metal, and he began to carve. The girl watched him. Her eyes followed his hands as they shaped the metal, slowly, carefully, turning something ugly into something beautiful. After a long time, she picked up the soup, and she drank. Kept carving. He did not smile, but something inside him, something that had been dead for a very long time, began to wake up. He did not know her name. He did not know her story, but he knew one thing with absolute certainty. No one was going to hurt this child, not while he was still breathing. The Wanderer flew on through the darkness of space, and somewhere in the medical bay, a broken man and a broken child began to heal each other. 3 days passed on the Wanderer. The girl still did not speak, had tried everything. Soft words, gentle touches, warm food, but the child remained silent, trapped inside her own mind. She followed everywhere. At first the crew found it strange. Was not a gentle man. He did not smile. He did not laugh. He worked alone and spoke only when necessary, but the girl seemed to feel safe with him. She would sit in the corner while he worked, watching him with her dark eyes, holding her rabbit close to her chest. Found them in the cargo bay on the 4th day. Was fixing a broken pipe. The girl sat on a crate nearby, her legs swinging back and forth. For the first time since her rescue, she did not look afraid. "She likes you," said. Did not look up from his work. "She's confused, scared. She'll attach to anyone who doesn't hurt her." "That's not true," sat down beside him. "Children know. They can sense who is safe and who is dangerous. She chose you." Said nothing, but his hands paused on the pipe for just a moment. "The crew is talking," continued, "about you, about who you really are." "I'm a cargo hauler." "You're more than that," lowered her voice. "I've seen the way you move, the way you watch every door, the way you check every shadow. You're not just some worker. What were you before?" Put down his tools. He looked at for a long moment. Then he looked at the girl. "Does it matter?" he asked. "It might if trouble comes." Stood up, he wiped his hands on his pants and walked to the door. But before he left, he stopped. "I was a Marine," he said. "Republic of Korea, 8 years, 3 tour." He paused. "I've seen things that would break most people, done things that would make them sick, and I've spent the last 3 years trying to forget all of it." He looked back at, "Is that enough?" He left before she could answer. That night came to his quarters. The young pilot was nervous, his hands shaking as he sat down. "I found something," he said. I searched the network, old news stories, military records. He's not just a former Marine, he's the honey badger." Frowned. "The what?" Pulled up a file on his tablet. The story was 3 years old. A space station called Outpost 9. A raiding party had taken hostages. 17 soldiers, armed with plasma weapons and body armor. The station security had surrendered. The humans there had given up hope. And then one man had walked into the ship, alone, with nothing but a welding torch and a fire axe. He had walked out an hour later. They had not walked out at all. 17, whispered. He killed 17 of them by himself. The news called him the honey badger, after that earth animal, the one that attacks lions, the one that never backs down. Read the story in silence. There were pictures, the aftermath. She had to look away. "Why didn't he tell us?" she asked. "Would you?" Shook his head. "After something like that, he probably just wants to forget, to be normal." Thought about the quiet man in the cargo bay, the one who carved metal into stars for a silent little girl, the one who had not hesitated to bring her aboard, to protect her, to claim her as his responsibility. Maybe he was trying to forget, or maybe he was trying to become someone new, someone better. She hoped the universe would let him. On the other side of the ship, sat in the darkness of his quarters. The girl was asleep in the medical bay, had finally convinced her to sleep in a real bed, but could not sleep. He never could. He looked at his hands, strong hands, hands that had built things and broken things, hands that had taken lives and saved them. He remembered Outpost 9, the screams, the blood, the way they had looked at him at the end, not with anger, not with hatred, with fear. They had never seen a human fight like that before. They had thought humans were weak, soft, easy prey. They had learned differently. They had a word for creatures like. It meant the beast that does not know fear. They used it for only the most dangerous predators in the galaxy, the ones that attacked without thinking, the ones that fought until they were dead. Did not feel like a beast. He felt tired, broken, empty. But when he thought about the girl, something stirred inside him, something that might have been purpose, something that might have been hope. He had not asked for this. He had not wanted this, but life did not ask what you wanted. It simply happened and you dealt with it. The next morning found the girl waiting outside his door. She did not speak. She simply held out her hand. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he took her hand in his. Her fingers were tiny against his palm, fragile, breakable, but she held on tight. They walked to the mess hall together. The crew watched them with curious eyes, smiled, nodded. Even who had learned the truth about looked at them with something like respect. The girl sat beside while he ate. She did not touch her food, but she watched him, copying the way he held his spoon, the way he chewed his rice, learning, adapting, surviving. Sat across from them. "She needs a name," she said. "We can't keep calling her the girl." Looked at the child. She looked back at him, and for the first time the ghost of something like curiosity appeared in her eyes. "We found her in the wreckage of the Morning Star," continued. "Among the stars. Maybe we could call her something that means star or light." Thought about it. He thought about the darkness she had come from, the darkness he had come from, and the small spark of light that had somehow survived. He said, smiled, "It's pretty. What does it mean?" Lily said, "In Korean, a flower that grows from the mud, something beautiful that comes from something ugly." Looked at the girl, and "I think it fits." Did not react to her new name, but when said it again, softly, she looked up at him, and something in her eyes changed, a tiny crack in the wall she had built around herself. It was not much, but it was a start. The wanderer continued its journey through the stars, and somewhere in the vastness of space they were watching, hunting, searching for survivors of the Morning Star. They did not know about yet. They did not know about the honey badger. But they would learn. Soon enough they would all learn. The Helix Nebula was beautiful. Colors of purple and gold spread across the void like paint on black cloth. Stars were born here, bright and young, burning with new fire. It was a place of creation, a place of wonder. It was also a place of death. The alarm sounded at midday ship time. His voice came through the speakers, calm but tense. All crew to the bridge, now. Was in the cargo bay with. She was helping him sort supplies, carrying small boxes with her tiny hands. She had not spoken yet, but she had started to help, to participate, to live again. He picked her up and carried her to the bridge. She did not protest. She simply wrapped her arms around his neck and held on. The crew was already gathered when he arrived, stood at the controls, his face white, held her medic bag like a shield, stared at the main screen with empty eyes. A ship hung in the void before them. It was massive, 3 times the size of the Wanderer, dark metal covered in spikes and weapons. The design was ugly, brutal, built for one purpose only. War. Warship said, "They've locked onto us, we can't run." His hands shook on the controls. "Maybe they'll let us go. We're just a cargo ship. We have nothing they want." But even as he spoke, the communication screen lit up, and a face appeared. He was 7 feet tall, covered in dark green scales. A long scar ran down the left side of his face, cutting through his eye. The eye itself was white and dead, but the other eye burned with cold intelligence. "Human vessel," the said. His voice was deep like rocks grinding together. "I am commander of the 13th Fang. You will prepare to be boarded." Stepped forward. "Commander, we are a registered cargo ship. We carry nothing of value. Surely there is no need." "You carry a survivor of the Morning Star." His dead eye seemed to stare right through the screen. "A child. She belongs to us now. All witnesses belong to us." The bridge went silent. Felt's arms tightened around his neck. She had heard, she had understood. "We have no survivors aboard," tried. "You must be mistaken." Smiled, it was not a pleasant sight. "We tracked your ship from the wreckage. We know what you took. The child comes with us or you all die. This is not a negotiation." The screen went dark. No one moved. No one spoke. They could hear the sound of the ship moving closer, the clang of metal against metal as it locked onto the Wanderer. They were being boarded. "What do we do?" whispered. "We can't fight them, we can't." "Everyone stay calm." His voice was steady, but his hands trembled. "Maybe we can talk to them, offer them something. Money, cargo, anything." "Move to side." "Give me," she said. "I'll hide her. There are places on this ship." "No." Everyone turned to look at. He stood in the center of the bridge, still in his arms. His face was calm, empty, like the surface of a frozen lake. "They'll search every corner of this ship," he said. "They'll find her, and when they do, they'll punish whoever hid her." He looked at. "I won't let that happen to you." "Then what?" His voice cracked. "We just hand her over, let them take her." Set down gently. He knelt in front of her and took her hands in his. She looked at him with those dark, silent eyes, eyes that had already seen too much death, too much pain. He said softly, "I need you to stay with, can you do that for me?" She did not answer, but she did not let go of his hands either. "I'm going to make the bad things go away," continued. "I promise, but I need you to be brave. Can you be brave?" For a long moment nothing happened, then nodded, just once, just barely, but it was enough. Stood up, he walked to the weapons locker and pulled out a metal pipe. Heavy, solid, good for breaking things. Stepped in front of him. "Think about this. There are at least a dozen soldiers on that ship, armed, armored, you can't." "I can," his voice was quiet. "I have before." Understanding dawned in his eyes. He had heard the rumors, the stories, but he had never believed them until now. "The honey badger," whispered. Said nothing. He simply walked toward the airlock where they would enter. His voice stopped him. She stood with the little girl pressed against her side. "What happens if you fail?" Looked back at her, at the crew that had become something like a family. "I won't fail," he said. The airlock hissed open. The soldiers poured through, 12 of them, massive, scaled, armed with plasma weapons and blades as long as a man's arm. Their eyes glowed yellow in the dim light of the ship. Walked at the front. His dead eye swept across the corridor, his good eye found standing alone in his path. "One human," said. "One small human with a metal stick," he laughed. The sound was like thunder in a cave. "Is this the best your kind can offer?" Did not answer, he did not move. He simply stood there blocking the way to the bridge. "2. Move aside," said. "The child comes with us. This is your only warning." His grip tightened on the pipe. Behind him he could hear breathing, fast, scared. But she was not running, she was not crying, she was being brave. "No," said. The word was quiet, simple, final. His eye narrowed. "What did you say?" Looked at the commander, at the soldiers behind him, at the weapons and claws and teeth that could tear him apart in seconds. And he was not afraid. "I said no," repeated. "She's not going anywhere, not with you, not with anyone, she stays with me." Stared at the human for a long moment. He had conquered worlds. He had broken armies. He had never seen a creature so small stand before him with such certainty. "Do you know what we do to those who defy us?" asked. "I know what I do to those who threaten children," replied. The air in the corridor seemed to freeze. The soldiers shifted, their hands moving to their weapons. They could feel it now. Something different about this human, something dangerous. Smiled his terrible smile. "Take him," he ordered, "then take the child." The first soldier stepped forward and moved. The first soldier was fast. His species had evolved as hunters, their reflexes sharpened by millions of years of killing. His clawed hand shot towards throat, a killing blow that had ended countless lives. He missed, ducked under the strike and brought his pipe up in a single, savage arc. The metal connected with the soldier's elbow. The joint bent the wrong way. The screamed, a high-pitched sound that echoed through the corridor. Before the scream ended, was already moving. He grabbed the injured soldier by his armor and spun him around, using his massive body as a shield. 2 plasma bolts meant for burned into the soldier's back instead. 3 seconds, one down. The others hesitated, just for a moment, but in a fight a moment was everything. Pushed the dying soldier into his companions and charged forward. He was not thinking now. He was not planning. He was simply reacting, moving, fighting. The same way his ancestors had fought 100,000 years ago on the plains of Earth. The same way humans had always fought when their families were in danger. With everything they had, until nothing was left. A blade came at his head. He twisted away. The edge caught his arm, opening a line of red from shoulder to elbow. He did not feel it. The pain would come later. For now, there was only the fight. He swung his pipe in a wide arc. It caught a soldier across the face, shattering scales and bone. The dropped. Another took his place, ducked a claw strike and drove his pipe into the soft flesh beneath the creature's chin. The made a choking sound and fell. 5 seconds, 3 down. Watched from the back of the group. His good eye had gone wide. He had seen humans fight before. Weak, slow, easy to kill. This was different. This human moved like water, like fire, like something that could not be stopped. "Kill him," roared, "all of you now." The remaining soldiers rushed forward. 9 of them. Their yellow eyes burned with rage and fear. They attacked together, a wall of scales and claws and weapons. Met them head-on. He took a blade to the ribs. He felt the metal slide between his bones, felt the hot rush of blood down his side. He grabbed the wrist of the who had stabbed him and twisted. The joint broke with a wet crack. He pulled the blade free and used it to open the soldier's throat. A claw raked across his back, deep, down to the bone. spun and drove his elbow into the attacker's eye. The stumbled back, blinded, finished him with a strike to the temple. The corridor was filling with bodies now. Green blood mixed with red on the metal floor. The air smelled of copper and something bitter that might have been fear. 8 seconds, 6 down. Was bleeding from a dozen wounds. His arm hung heavy at his side. His breathing came in ragged gasps, but he did not stop. He did not slow down. He simply kept fighting. Because behind him was, and he had promised to keep her safe. The remaining soldiers had stopped advancing. They stood in a loose circle around, their weapons raised but their hands uncertain. They looked at their fallen companions, at the human standing in the middle of them, covered in blood, still holding his bent pipe like a sword. They were afraid. They had conquered star systems. They had enslaved entire species. And they were afraid of one small human who would not fall. "What are you waiting for?" Push through his soldiers. "He is one man, kill him." But no one moved. Stood in the center of the circle, swaying slightly. His vision was blurring. His legs felt weak. He had lost too much blood. He had maybe a minute before his body gave out. 1 minute was enough. He looked at, the commander stood behind his soldiers, using them as shields. Smart, cowardly, the hallmark of every bully had ever known. "Your soldiers won't fight," said. His voice was rough, wet with blood. "They've seen what I can do. They know what happens next." "You are dying, human." His voice was confident, but his eye told a different story. "You cannot even stand straight. In a moment you will fall, and then we will take the child, and we will make her watch as we gut you like an animal." Behind, in the doorway of the bridge, stood watching, was trying to pull her away to shield her from the violence. But the little girl would not move. She watched with those dark, silent eyes. And she was not afraid anymore. Felt something then, a warmth spreading through his chest that had nothing to do with the blood. He thought of his life, the wars he had fought, the people he had killed, the emptiness that had followed him across the stars. He had been looking for something, a reason to keep going, a reason to be more than what he was. He had found it in a broken ship, hiding under her mother's body, holding a torn rabbit. "You want the child," raised his pipe. "Come and take her." His face twisted with rage. "Enough, I will end this myself." The commander drew his blade. It was longer than his arm, curved like a fang, designed to cut through armor and bone. Had used it to kill hundreds, maybe thousands. He stepped forward. Did not retreat. The remaining soldiers watched. The whole universe seemed to hold its breath. And then spoke. The word was soft, barely a whisper, but in the silence of the corridor it was louder than thunder. Did not turn around, but he heard her. The first word she had spoken since her rescue, a Korean word, uncle, a term of trust, of family. Something stirred inside him, something that had been dead for a very long time. He felt his legs steady, his grip tighten, his vision clear. This was why he was still alive. This was why he had survived everything the universe had thrown at him, for this moment, for this child, for this chance to be something more than a weapon. "I hear you," he said softly. "I hear you." Lunged. Moved. The blade cut through the air where had been a heartbeat before. Stepped inside the commander's guard, too close for the long sword to be useful. He drove his pipe into his wrist. The blade clattered to the floor. Swung his other hand, claws extended, caught the arm and twisted, used the commander's momentum against him, drove him to his knees. For a moment they were face to face, the commander and the human who would not die. His good eye was wide with something that might have been terror. "What are you?" he whispered. Leaned close. His voice was quiet, cold, final. "I am what happens when you threaten a human's child." He released and stepped back. The commander slumped on the floor, defeated but alive. The remaining soldiers stood frozen, their weapons lowered. Turned to face them. Blood dripped from his wounds. His legs shook with exhaustion, but his eyes were steady, unbroken. "Anyone else?" he asked. No one moved. "Take your commander," said. "Take your dead, leave this ship, and spread the word." He looked at, still kneeling on the floor. "Humans are not prey, we never were." The soldiers moved to obey. They lifted their fallen. They dragged their commander toward the airlock. Not one of them looked back. When the last of them was gone, his legs finally gave out. He fell to his knees, then his side. The world was going dark at the edges. The pain was everywhere now. But through the darkness he felt small hands on his face, warm breath on his cheek, a soft voice whispering his name. "Wake up." He opened his eyes, was there. Tears streamed down her face, but she was speaking, she was alive, she was safe. That was enough. Smiled, and then the darkness took him. Worked through the night. Lay on the medical table, more dead than alive. His body was a map of violence. Cuts and stab wounds and burns from plasma fire. His left arm was torn from shoulder to wrist. 3 ribs were broken. A blade had come within an inch of his heart. Any normal person would have died. Any normal person would have stopped fighting long before the wounds got this bad, but was not normal. He had never been normal. Cleaned each wound, stitched each cut, pumped blood into his veins and drugs into his system. Her hands shook, but her work was steady. She had trained for this. She had never done it before. Refused to leave. The little girl sat in the corner of the medical bay, wrapped in a blanket, watching work. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red from crying, but she did not look away. She had found her voice again, and the first thing she had done with it was call for her. Came in once near midnight. He looked at its broken body and shook his head. Will he make it? Did not look up. I don't know. What he did out there, his voice trailed off. I've never seen anything like it. He fought a dozen soldiers by himself, and he won. He's human, said simply. That's what humans do, we survive. Left without another word, there was nothing else to say. An hour later, reported that the warship was gone. They had retreated into the nebula, licking their wounds. Before they left, had sent one final message. Mark the freighter Wanderer. It is under the protection of a do not engage. The beast that does not know fear. It was the highest designation they had for dangerous creatures, the ones that even their warriors avoided. Had earned it, in blood and pain and impossible courage. The hours passed slowly, finished her work and sat beside her patient, monitoring his vitals. His heartbeat was weak but steady. His breathing was shallow but regular. He was fighting to survive, even unconscious. Fell asleep on a chair near the medical table. In her sleep, she reached out and touched his hand. Her small fingers wrapped around his larger ones. Even in the darkness, even in the uncertainty, she held on. Dawn came. Ship time, at least. In space, there was no real dawn, no sun rising over the horizon. But the lights in the Wanderer brightened, simulating the morning of a world they had all left behind. Opened his eyes. For a moment he did not know where he was. The ceiling was white. The air smelled of medicine. His body felt like it had been torn apart and put back together wrong. Then he felt the small hand holding his, and he remembered everything. He whispered. The girl woke instantly. She looked at him with wide eyes, then burst into tears. Not sad tears, happy ones. The tears of someone who had been terrified of losing something precious and had it returned. She threw her arms around him, careful of his bandages but desperate to be close. You're awake. Winced at the pain, but he did not push her away. He wrapped his good arm around her and held her close. I'm here, he said. I told you I wouldn't leave. Appeared in the doorway. Her face was exhausted but relieved. You almost died, she said. 3 times. Your heart stopped twice on the table. Sorry for the trouble. Don't joke. Walked over and checked his vitals. You lost 4 liters of blood. Your organs started shutting down. I've never seen anyone survive wounds like that. Looked at, still clinging to him. I had a reason to survive. Followed his gaze, she smiled despite everything. Yes, I suppose you did. The days that followed were slow and quiet. Recovered faster than expected, but he was still confined to the medical bay, rarely left his side. She brought him food, helped him with his exercises, talked to him in her soft, hesitant voice. She talked about her mother, about their home on a colony world, about the dreams she used to have and the fears that haunted her now. She talked and talked, making up for all the weeks of silence, and listened. He always listened. One evening came to visit. He brought news from the wider galaxy. Word is spreading, the captain said, about what happened here. Ships are talking, stations are talking, even they are talking. He shook his head in wonder. They're calling you the honey badger, again. Said nothing. Do you know what a honey badger is? Asked. It's a small animal from Earth, barely bigger than a cat, but it attacks lions. It survives cobra venom. It never backs down no matter how big the enemy is. I know what it is. Then you know why they call you that. Leaned forward. What you did, fighting those soldiers, protecting, it's become a legend. Other species are talking about humans now, wondering what we're really capable of. Looked at, asleep on the chair beside his bed. Her hand was still holding his. Even in sleep, she would not let go. I didn't do it to become a legend, he said. I did it because it was right. I know, stood up. That's what makes it a legend. He left them alone. Weeks passed. The Wanderer continued its journey through the stars, healed, grew stronger. The bond between them deepened into something that looked very much like family. One day, asked what his plans were. The Wanderer was scheduled to dock at a human station soon. Safe territory, the kind of place where a child could grow up without fear. You could stay, said. Find a real home, give a normal life. Thought about it, a home, a life without violence, without blood, without the constant weight of danger pressing down on his shoulders. It sounded nice. It sounded impossible. Home is with me, he said finally. Wherever that is, for as long as she wants it. And you, what do you want? Looked out the window at the stars, endless, beautiful, full of dangers and wonders and things he had never seen. I want to protect her, he said. I want to watch her grow up. I want to be there when she laughs and catch her when she falls. He paused. I want to be the person she thinks I am. Smiled, you already are. Far away, in the dark spaces between stars, they spoke in whispers. They told stories of a human who had stood alone against their warriors, who had killed 6 and defeated their commander without hesitation, who had protected a child with a ferocity that made even their bravest soldiers tremble. They called him the beast that does not know fear. Other species heard the stories. They whispered them in trade stations and cargo ships and colony worlds. The humans, they said, the humans are not what we thought they were. They look weak, soft, harmless. But they have a madness inside them, a fire that does not go out. When you threaten what they love, they become something else entirely, something that does not stop, does not surrender, does not know when it is beaten. On Earth, there is an animal called the honey badger. It attacks creatures 10 times its size. It survives poisons that kill other creatures instantly. It fights until it wins or dies, and sometimes it wins even when it should have died. The humans are like that, the story said, all of them. On the Wanderer sat within the cargo bay. She was helping him carve a new toy, a little spaceship made from scrap metal. Her hands were clumsy, but her smile was bright. She said, "Will you always protect me?" Looked at her, at the child who had lost everything and found him in the wreckage, at the daughter he had never expected to have. Always, he said, no matter what. Smiled and went back to her carving, and watched the stars pass by, knowing that somewhere out there, enemies were learning a simple truth. You do not threaten a human's child. You never threaten a human's child. Because humans are not prey. They are not victims. They are not the soft, weak creatures that other species believe them to be. They are the honey badgers of the galaxy. And they will never, ever back down.